We often think of Sparta as a land of heroes, a place of freedom. But if you look closer, you see something else, a machine designed to strip away humanity and replace it with total obedience. In Sparta, the state's control over your life didn't begin when you joined the army. It began the moment you were born. State control began when a newborn infant was brought before the overseers, known as the Ephors. If they decided you were useful, you lived. If not, you didn't. For the lucky ones who survived infancy, childhood ended abruptly at age 7. That was when boys were taken from their homes to live in military barracks. But this wasn't a boarding school. It was a psychological experiment in survival. The state purposely kept them on the edge of starvation. They were given a meager diet, barely enough to function. Why? To create a very specific psychological profile. They were encouraged even to steal food to survive. It taught them stealth. It taught them cunning. But there was a twisted catch. If they were caught stealing, they were beaten, not for the crime of theft, but for the failure of getting caught. They were conditioning these children to fear failure more than pain. Why build a society this paranoid? Why torture your own children? Because the Spartans were terrified. Originally, they were Dorian invaders who settled in the region and enslaved the local population. These slaves were called Helots. They worked the land so the Spartans could focus exclusively on war. But the Spartans knew they were outnumbered. They needed to be lethal, not just to conquer enemies abroad, but to survive the enemies at home. The result of this trauma was the phalanx. This wasn't about individual glory. It was a massive formation of heavily armed foot soldiers, standing shoulder to shoulder. Because of their brutal training, they could execute maneuvers other armies couldn't dream of. They would wheel around, outflanking the enemy's left, and then roll up the line from the flank. It was efficient. It was deadly. But it came at a cost. To build the perfect soldier, Sparta had to destroy the child. That was the machine of Sparta. But even the greatest machines eventually break. Next time, we're moving forward to perform an autopsy on the greatest empire the world has ever known. We're investigating the death of Rome. Subscribe so you don't miss the evidence.